sir, he just moved.
That's impossible, Carrie.
He did. I saw it. He's alive.
With the confirmation by Carrie in that episode that Quinn was actually alive despite all of that, I knew that everybody at the community was probably breathing a big sigh of relief. While I believe that it was probably quite implausible that Quinn was still alive despite being exposed to such a high dose of sarin gas, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, because I really didn't want them to kill off the Quinn character. The episode doesn't really give us any explanation about why it took Carrie 9 days before she finally spoke with Astrid. Even the way she brings it up makes it sound like it's kind of an afterthought, which is just really strange. I think for me the only thing that was reassuring was that during the episode, I don't think there can be any doubt that Carrie has genuine feelings for Quinn. Not romantic, but she's genuinely upset by the position that he's in and the fact that he's dead. I read the usual criticisms about Claire Danes doing her chin quiver, but it was very, very sad when she saw him on the news, when she lost her balance, when she's watching the video. It's clear that she feels grief, guilt, and a genuine sense of loss. She's much more open with her emotions. As a contrast, we see Astrid is equally upset and distressed by what she sees, but she's much more composed and self-contained. And what I really liked in the episode was the interaction between the two women. They've previously had an antagonistic relationship full of antipathy and rivalry, but in this episode they put aside their differences and they were working together, and I believe that they were developing a genuine bond of respect and friendship. And I enjoy seeing positive portrayals of relationships between women.
You ready? It's pretty rough.
Although it would never pass the Bechdel test, I also enjoyed the brief discussion between Astrid and Carrie about Quinn, even though it was extremely sad that they were speaking about him in the past tense, because at that point they both assumed that he was dead.
Quinn never did anything he didn't want to. That's the truth. It was a complete pain in the ass that way. Stubborn as a mule. Beautiful too.
Astrid is one of the few sympathetic characters in the series, and even more unusual, she's a sympathetic female character. Carrie barely has any friends apart from Quinn, and until now we haven't actually seen her have any female friends. I know that Alison was supposed to be her friend, but that relationship really hasn't been sold to me, whereas Astrid's relationship with her has been much more convincing. This isn't a shippy episode because, of course, we don't really see Quinn's feelings for Carrie in this. Although, am I being a little bit desperate when I notice that he did make a conscious effort to wiggle his fingers at her at the end to show that he was alive? I don't think that was a convulsive death wiggle. I'm pretty sure he was saying, "Oi, I'm alive." For the people who think that Quinn was signalling to Carrie by blinking at her and using that as Morse code, I really don't think that was the case. He had just been exposed to a pretty high dose of nerve gas. I don't think he was really in the position to be thinking so rationally as to signal to anyone through his blinking. I think he was just trying to keep it together and stay alive. There were other implausibilities as well, though. For instance, using the tiles to narrow down the grid search, Carrie's random algorithm, the fact that out of all the search teams, Carrie and Astrid found Quinn, although I'm not really going to begrudge them that, because we didn't really want some other nameless operative finding them. The other implausibility was the fact that Quinn was actually alive. I'll hand wave that away by saying that maybe the chemist who put it together was crap, and that the quality of the sarin might have been poor and degraded. And there was the throwaway line about the piping being a bit short. So adding all of those factors together, perhaps there was a chance that the dosage wasn't as intense as the jihadists had originally planned. I have been reading that using atropine as a prophylactic is better than using it as an antidote. But that's generally for a much smaller dose, whereas Quinn was locked in a room and exposed to it. So if this wasn't a television show, he'd either be dead or doomed to have some pretty permanent long-term health effects as a result of his exposure. I really don't think they're going to kill him off, but it's clear from the previews that they're intending to make him suffer a lot more before they bring him back. I'm not sure about everybody else, whether or not people feel that this episode sufficiently redeems Carrie or makes it clear that, she does care about her friend Quinn. If you're a Carrie Jonas shipper, I'm not sure how you'd feel after this episode either, because Jonas has clearly moved on with his life as well, and there's something a little bit cold about him. In earlier episodes, I genuinely believed that he looked like he cared about Carrie, but I'm not quite sure how I feel now. I'm not as critical of him as some other people are in relation to the fact that he referred to Quinn as, that man. Perhaps that's his way of respecting Carrie's wishes and keeping the issue confidential, the fact that he doesn't out Quinn and let Laura and Otto know that he knows him.
You're his lawyer. Aren't you supposed to look out for his interests?
This is going beyond lawyers and interests. You saw the man in the video. You want thousands to die like that in agony?
15 years ago, my country was attacked. And thousands did die. Every bit as horrible as that video. And we wanted to get the bastards who hurt us. So we did. We started 2 wars. Tens of thousands of people died on both sides. And for what? We're still killing them. They're still coming after us, and on and on.
Nice speech, Laura. However, it has nothing to do with my run.
Really?
In terms of other parts of the episode, there's a funny post on Reddit where someone says, "I feel like I'm smarter than Dara Doll at this point." And then someone else says, "We all feel the same way." So I know there are people out there who are convinced that Dara Doll's playing the long con and he totally gets that Allison is duplicitous and a traitor. But I'm not very convinced right now. He really is coming across as being mega dopey to me. For instance, Saul is worried about the implications of the CIA being compromised and what it means for the safety of their operatives. Dara Doll's just keen to cover it up. He doesn't want anyone to know that the Russians have penetrated them, whereas Saul is more worried about the substance. In my mind, the only good thing about Dara Doll in this episode was that it was interesting to see how genuinely affected he seemed to be by Quinn's death. He had tears in his eyes. He actually looked sad, which is kind of creepy, because I have called him, Quinn's evil fairy godmother and implied that, Dara Doll might somehow be in love with him as well, but at least there's someone out there who cares about Quinn, even if it is the creepy Dar. I was also interested about Allison's character. She was very, very cool and collected despite being in an incredibly stressful situation. When Saul was there throttling her, she kind of spun it to her advantage because it did make Dara Doll quite sympathetic towards her. She really is able to think on her feet. She was calm. She managed to stay calm and professional in front of Saul, even though, Saul couldn't even bear to look at her. I also thought it was interesting that she described Saul as being, an incredibly angry man, because I was watching the interview with Mandy Patinkin on CBS, and he seemed just like Saul. I mean, how when we watch the interviews with Rupert Friend and we think, my God, he's nothing like Quinn. Rupert Friend's so kind of, goofy and has a much lighter tone in his voice, and his voice is even higher. So it seems like a completely different person. Whereas when you see Mandy Patinkin, he's so angry and cranky that he really doesn't seem to be acting when he's being Saul.
Then again, you're angry by nature. One of the angriest men I've ever known, actually.
There was a funny post on Reddit where they said that when Saul was throttling Allison, they were visualising him saying this instead.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
In terms of Otto this episode, there's been a lot of debate about his character as well. There are still a lot of people who think that he's evil. For two reasons. They think that his comment about Carrie having baggage was a bit odd, and some people are convinced that he made a second phone call after the one to Saul. I have to confess, I don't really see that now. Like, for a while I also thought he might be evil. I thought perhaps he might be funding terrorism. I thought perhaps he was in love with Carrie himself. But now, based on the last episode, I think that he thinks that Jonas and Carrie aren't meant for each other. And this is probably his way of intervening and saving them from themselves. I think he has seen that for Jonas and Carrie together it would be like a train wreck waiting to happen. And he likes both of them, so he's trying to help. No one forced him to call Saul, so I think he was trying to do the right thing. He's definitely a very intriguing character, and it would actually be kind of good if he wasn't evil. But if he was evil, it would be also very interesting to know his reasons for becoming evil, given that he seems so altruistic and rational. Now on to Kasim. They've forgotten all about Hussein, but we now have another sympathetic Muslim character in the form of Kasim, the guy with the saddest eyes in the world. He really is the most miserable and sad terrorist I've ever seen. I really like that he was trying to help Quinn. I don't understand why in such a giant building he felt like he had to dispose of the empty atropine injector into the garbage, such that one of the other terrorists could find it. If it was me, I would have found somewhere secret to hide it, somewhere safe. In that whole building, there could have been somewhere that he could have stashed it without anybody finding it. He also should never play poker, because when Bibi was there, eyeballing all of his team, Kasim was clearly about to lose it. I'd be interested to know if the character of Bibi was always intended to be such a sociopath or a psychopath, because in the earlier episodes he seemed much more sympathetic and rational, although it's not that rational to want to go to Syria and die. But then in the recent episodes he has really been, brought into prominence as being, the leader and quite unscrupulous. And I don't think things are going to end well for Kasim, because Bibi saved Kasim to save his own face because they're related. So I'm guessing that he will probably make Kasim martyr himself. So I don't think things are going to end well at all. I'm sad we never got to see Hussein again, but it's probably best for his character that he doesn't show up again, because chances are he'd be cactus if he did. Now these are spoilers for the next episode because they were featured in the preview. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop listening now. At the community, Kate Morrissey said, "I think next week's storyline about waking Quinn up from the coma might parallel the Jonas-Laura debate about whether or not to turn in Faisal. Do they speak up and possibly save dozens or even hundreds of people? Or do they keep their promise to him to maintain his rights and dignity, but take the risk that he has info on a terrorist attack? Similarly, do Saul Daradal take the risk of waking Quinn up out of the coma and see whether or not he has information on where the attacks will happen, even if this puts Quinn's life at stake again?" Ten Salam, I hope that's how you pronounce your name, says, "I think that Quinn would unquestionably want to be awakened no matter the risk, to help prevent an attack like the one planned. I think he'd be furious and horribly depressed if he found out that they had the chance and didn't take it. Even if it's Carrie who makes the decision, I'm not going to be mad because I can easily see that as being a decision she makes out of love and respect for Quinn. I'm pretty sure she, as well as Daradar and Sol, would want to be awakened if the situation were reversed. Risking their lives to prevent attacks like the one about to happen is a decision they made long ago. And I think, awful as it is, waking him is the right choice. However high the likelihood that it will kill him, it's even more likely that he has information that will help. One thing that Crux01 asked in a recent post, I think from today, was, one question I have is, does Quinn have any information? Have we overtly seen him hear or see something, as he was alone in the truck after he realised they weren't going to Syria, and again when he was chained up before being gassed? Just wondering if I've missed something, or is it just an implied possibility that he picked up some knowledge? So I have some thoughts on this particular issue and question. I also agree with the people who've said that Quinn would undoubtedly want to be awakened from his coma, even if it meant that he would die. In Season 2, Daradal calls Quinn a soldier. And we know that Quinn is someone who is willing to die if necessary, although he's not a zealot for the cause. It's also correct that Carrie would be the same. I'm not actually sure that Saul and Daradal would put themselves in the same position, because they come across as quite selfish to me sometimes. So for me, it's a big yes that, Quinn would be willing to take on that risk. The other question is, well, has he really seen anything? Does he really know anything? I think people in Quinn, Carrie and Saul's positions are trained to notice things and observe things and pick up on a lot of things that an ordinary person might not notice. So even if he didn't overhear direct plans, there would be a lot of knowledge that he would be able to share with them if he was awake. I was remembering a scene from episode 10 of season 4, 13 Hours in Islamabad, where Saul has just been rescued and Quinn is questioning him. And even though Saul says he doesn't know or remember anything, Quinn keeps going at him.
Come on, focus.
I need a break.
Listen to me. I put a bullet in Haysam Makani. That means that right now he is somewhere seeking medical attention, likely in the same place you were held before the exchange. This is our last best chance to get him before he melts back into the Fatah.
I told you. I didn't see anything. I was hooded the whole time.
Not the whole time. You said they took it off to make a video.
The windows were blacked out. I could have been anywhere.
Was it ground floor or higher?
I was led up some stairs.
How many flights?
At least 2.
So it could have been an apartment then?
Maybe. I don't know.
What about the boy with the bomb vest? Have you seen him before?
No. First time was in that room.
So he could have been from here, a local kid. Maybe from the madrasa where we first saw Akani.
I don't know. Never even knew his name.
Okay. Tell me about the phones again.
What about him?
You said Akani switched them out religiously.
New burner was given to every man every morning, like clockwork.
Was it the same make of phone or a different one?
Oh, I don't know.
Come on, Saul, try to remember. This is important. Sky Vega, Lenovo, HTC.
I can't remember what I didn't know.
You had it in your hand. You called Carrie with it.
It was in the mountains. It was pitch black out there.
You dialed her number. Did you dial it on a keypad or on a screen? Oh, goddamn it, Saul. Someone fucking remember! Remember! I'm in the middle here.
Of what?
Debriefing Saul.
It looks more like an interrogation to me.
Maybe it is.
Give him a break.
Now I'm going to have to wrap this up because it's actually getting really late and I have to go to bed. But I was having a bit of a giggle the other day when I was reading people's comments about feeling less freaked out after hearing my voice. And I think BWG71 was saying that it was very soothing. And that made me laugh because I was imagining doing these meditation tapes where I'm like, take a deep breath. Quinn's not going to die. He's the most popular character on Homeland. Don't forget, Brody was supposed to die in season 1, but they kept him for 3 seasons just because he was well liked by the studio. But I can't make any of those assurances because, first of all, we don't know whether or not Homeland's been renewed for another season. And second, even though Quinn is very popular, if the actor decides to go on to do other opportunities, I suppose they would probably write him out by killing him. So I'm afraid that's not very soothing. But I will say that I think it's very unlikely that they're going to kill him off. Anyway, we've only got 2 more episodes left in the season. At this point, I haven't really felt game to write any fanfic because I just don't know how things are going to go. I want to wait until the end of the season before I write anything. Fingers crossed that the next 2 episodes are good ones and don't leave everybody in anguish the way the last ones have. Okay, thanks everyone for listening.